In the previous video, we saw that classes are blueprints, and we said it can also be called templates. And what classes do is that they help us to create objects, or we create objects. I'll word it this way, that they are used for creating objects in programming. And we also saw that classes define the attributes. And by attributes, we meant the characteristics or the properties that those objects have. And we looked at two examples. One was cake and the other was house blueprint. Now let's drill further into this topic of attributes. So when we talk about attributes, I already talked about the fact that attributes are properties, or you think of them as characteristics of what that object might have. And so for a cake recipe, so let's say we want to build a cake. We want to bake a cake. We can't possibly just start baking without having a recipe. Or how do you teach someone else to bake a cake if you don't give them the recipe? And so the recipe is the class. The cake is the actual object. And so take a look at these pictures we have here. And you can tell by looking at this cake that this cake has different things, right? We can say this cake have flavors, they have layers, they have weight, this frosting type, sprinkles. Do they have sprinkles or don't they? So these are attributes. These are the characteristics of a cake. So essentially, it's just like saying, how can you identify a cake when you see one? So those are the questions you want to ask yourself when you're thinking in terms of object. Again, think of this. The recipe is not the actual thing. The actual thing is the cake we're baking. And I'll go ahead to do the same thing with this house example, where we talked about blueprint, which is this one. So by blueprint, we mean the architectural design of the house. But we cannot possibly live in a design. We can live in an actual house, right? And so this here is what is synonymous to classes. And the actual house, after we have built it, after we have executed that plan, after we've used this architectural design, is the object. I hope this is clear by what we mean by classes and objects. So these are two different things. The object is the actual thing that you build from the classes. And the classes are more like blueprints, templates, designs, if you will, but they are not the real thing. So for a house, for instance, we might be talking about something like the number of rooms, what color is the house, what's the size of the house, what number of floors do we have, what type of flooring do we have, does this house have garage, does this house have swimming pool? These are the attributes of this house. And so to sum it up, how can we describe something? Those would be the attributes. So how can you describe a student? A student, for instance, should have an ID number. A student should have courses the student is taking. The student should have professors who are teaching them. The student should have, things like that are things that the student would have. These are attributes. I'll see you in the next one.